Hey, this is Joe Hubbard from JoeHubbardBassVideos.com coming at you today with another bass lesson. And this particular lesson is on understanding tonalities. So grab your bass and let's get started. It's comprised of tonal music and atonal music. The majority of the music that a working musician will be faced with falls into the tonal music category. Within tonal music, a large percentage is governed by major and minor tonalities. This is the foundation of Western music. From a harmonic standpoint, it is essential to be aware of the tonality at any given point of a song. The reason this is crucial is because the tonality is what defines the key center. In Western music, we have a total of 12 pitches. This is what makes up the chromatic scale. A tonality is defined by subtracting from the 12 tones within an octave to usually 7 notes. Therefore, it is the exclusion of the other 5 pitches that actually defines a tonality. With that in mind, this process of subtracting various pitches is the process that is used to create major and minor scales. For example, a major scale chooses 7 different pitches while subtracting 5 notes from the 12 possible tones of the chromatic scale. When referring to the notes in the tonality, they are called diatonic notes, meaning that they belong to the scale. The 5 notes that are omitted are called chromatic notes, which means they do not belong to the scale. We mustn't confuse the term chromatic with the chromatic scale, which of course contains all 12 possible pitches in Western music. The characteristic difference here is that the chromatic scale does not create a tonality because all 12 tones are present. Major scales are constructed with a series of whole steps and half steps from any given note. This series of whole steps and half steps create what is known as a tetrachord. A major scale in its entirety is created with a lower tetrachord and an upper tetrachord. The lower tetrachord for a major scale is constructed with this formula: whole step, half step. You should think of this lower tetrachord as a set pattern that creates the first 4 notes of any major scale. This means that you could start this pattern on any of the 12 notes in Western music and build the first 4 notes of the major scale from that given note. The note that you start on will be the name of the particular major scale that you're playing. Requires an upper tetrachord to complete the major scale, as 7 different notes are needed. To complete a C major scale, follow this formula. First, play the lower tetrachord starting on C. From the last note, I want you to skip 1 whole step above to G. Okay, this is the link between the 2 tetrachords. So the next note of the scale starts on G. And then what I want you to do, starting on G, construct an identical tetrachord consisting of whole step, half step, or major second, minor second. So if I use the same fingering, I'm going to have this. Note that I can change the fingering, and this gets us into now really understanding this across the instrument, because if I learn just one set pattern, one set fingering, I'm not going to really know this information. It's going to be very limited to how I do know it. So what I want to do is really learn the sound, and in order to learn the sound you need to learn some multiple fingerings. So let's explore that. I can now play this upper tetrachord starting on the 4th finger, and this goes 4, 1, 3, 4, and that keeps me all in position. Most people know this fingering for a major scale. Again, another thing that you want to concentrate is holding all your fingers down. What a lot of people do, you might not pick it up on the video, but if I hold my fingers that are not playing notes off of the fretboard, this is very bad for my technique. I want to keep them down onto the fretboard. So if I go 2, 4, 3 is down, 1 is behind 2. Okay, and that keeps it very smooth and my sound is going to be better, and my facility is going to be better to get around the instrument. So now I can play this one fingering in position, or I can shift. Now what I can do is play the lower tetrachord with that 4, 1, 3, 4 fingering that I did on the upper tetrachord, and then shift that. So that gives me some different possibilities now. I've got 3 different possibilities. I have this, I have this, and I have this. Okay, now you go practice. As you continue to build major scales from all 12 notes of the chromatic scale, you'll be involved with certain sharps or flats. To help you understand how to make the choice between 2 possible letter names, remember these guidelines. Each letter name will always follow the order of the alphabet from A to G, and then it just repeats itself. So if I take the key of C, the order of the notes is going to go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The letter name may be flatted or sharpened depending on the tetrachord formula for constructing the major scale. So let's take the scale of A flat major. If I start here on A flat, my next note is going to be B flat. Okay, I can't call that A sharp. Okay, it has to be B flat because that's the only way it follows the order of the alphabet. The next note is going to be C. The next note after that is D flat. Okay, I can't have C going to C sharp. It has to be D flat. Okay, the next note's E flat. The next note is F, and the next note is G, and then I'm back to A flat. So A flat has 4 flats within that scale. Okay, you will never have 2 of the same letter names within a major scale. For example, E flat to E should be D sharp to E. And major scales will never mix sharps or flats. And here's kind of the rule on this. We have the key of C, which is all natural notes. Okay, now it's possible to flat from 1 to 7 of those notes, because I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's 7 notes there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then this note is the octave of the root, so that's a repeated note. So there's 7 notes within a major scale. Now, it's possible to flat between 1 of those notes all the way up to 7, and sharp 1 through 7. So I can now have a scale that has 1 flat and all the rest of the notes are natural. I can then have another scale that has 2 flats and all the rest of the notes are natural. I can then have another scale that has 3, 4, 5, 6, and up to 7 flats within one scale. Okay, and I can do the same thing with the sharp. So I can have a key that has 1 sharp and the rest of the notes are natural. I can have a key that has 2 sharps and then the 5 remaining notes are natural notes, and that goes all the way up to 7. Now 7 plus the 1, which is all natural, which is the key of C, equals 15. There's a lot of guys that don't know this. I know guys who have graduated with music degrees and they do not know this concept. This is an important concept because it's part of what makes up Western music. And somehow when you learn this and internalize it, there's nothing more within understanding tonalities that you need to understand. But if there's missing information that you don't learn, there always is a problem that occurs with the understanding of this stuff, and especially as things get more advanced. These are the fundamentals. So what I want you to do is I want you to play these in all the different keys. And I want you to play it with all the various different fingerings. So we have the fingering from the 4th finger. The fingering from the 2nd finger, and that kept us in position. And then I shifted this way out of position. And then I want you to move to the next key. So if, let's say, you take 1 flat, that's going to be the key of F, because I have F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, and F. And I could play that in various points. I could play it here, or I could play it here and get more of a open fingering going on here. Obviously I can't play that from my fourth finger here. I'm going to have to make adjustments and play that up here, or up here, or up here. Okay, and I can also play that key of F from here. So that's also a good thing to do, is to go through the different possibilities of where you can play those. So I could do the same thing here. I could then play it in position here, and then I could shift here and play that. I could go down here and do it from here. I could play it in position, or I could shift out of position this way. And I want you to do that in every key. So take this information on board. Get busy, because there's a lot of work, but I guarantee you practicing it in this way is going to make a lot of sense. This is a great lesson if you're just getting started, or if you don't really know anything about music theory and you want to start learning it properly. So this is really part of my fundamental bass series, but sometimes there's those Swiss cheese guys, you know, the guys who know a little bit, but they've got the big gaps within their knowledge, and just filling that in, watching something very fundamental is very important. There's that old saying that the difference between a professional and an amateur is the professional really knows his fundamentals. He really knows his basics. If you look at a pro boxer, he knows his basics. You know, he's not working on a lot of weird advanced theory. He works on understanding those fundamentals, and he can use that in real time, anywhere, anytime, against any opponent. This is what I want you to get into here. So this could be an important lesson, even if you've already seen this kind of material before. So take this on board, practice smart, play creatively, and I'll see you at the next lesson.